Yo, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. And in this video, I wanted to show you guys my complete Nightfall run, my very first Nightfall run from this week's reset. This is of course the inverted Spire strike with the Prism modifier and the Time Warp Rings modifier. Now I wanted to upload this because I could then talk to you guys about, strategies for Nightfall, how you can then use this for the Rat King quest, because of course the Rat King is not tied to a particular Nightfall, it is just tied to the weekly Nightfall, whatever it is that week. So if you didn't do Rat King last week, don't worry, you can do it this week. And good news, this week's strike, this week's Nightfall is so much easier. Last week's one wasn't too bad, but of course if you were a little bit lower on power, or you didn't necessarily have the right loadout, or you didn't necessarily have the communication with your team, it could be a little bit tricky to try and get that completion time with more than 5 minutes left on the clock. However, this week, this is our very first run. This is by no means an optimal run. It was myself, TwoSixNine and Skill-Up. We jumped in for the first time, we were sort of like chatting, streaming while we were playing, and there were a few sections where we clearly wasted some time, so we could have definitely been a lot faster in this one, but even without trying, we easily beat the 5-minute timer. We finished with about 6.5 minutes left on the clock, and that was our very first run without any kind of adjustments for strategy or anything like that. Honestly, I expected to jump in for the first time, complete it, say sub 5, and then have to sort of like go back and think, alright, where can we save some time? But generally speaking, just running through casually, we got through it really, really quickly, and it was incredibly easy. So what I will say is if you haven't done the Rat King quest, or you want to do, say, a second or third Rat King for, say, that higher power drop, then this week is perfect. So if you do enjoy this video, then a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below if you have any questions. But to begin with, first thing I want to call out are, of course, the modifiers. It's Prism and Time Warp Rings. Now, Prism wasn't supposed to be the modifier this week. It's supposed to be Momentum, which is the one that increases your movement speed. So the focus on this Nightfall is about moving fast, jumping, running, because of course you have to jump through rings. However, there was a bug and it didn't transfer over, so we're back with Prism. Prism is of course the one whereby you do more damage if you have the matching element, and you do less damage if you use the wrong element. Kinetic damage, however, is unchanged, and the element rotates every so often. Now, it's also worth noting there is a bug with this modifier, whereby there's supposed to be a permanent icon on the screen that indicates the current element at that time. It's not showing up right now, so you just need to pay attention. But same as last week, make sure that you have good coverage. What I will say is across your team, ensure that everybody has one of the elements in each of the 2 slots. So ensure that you have someone that runs with, say, an arc energy weapon, a solar energy weapon, and a void energy weapon, and then someone that also runs with a solar, arc, and void power weapon. You don't necessarily have to swap weapons throughout. In fact, my team and I have never bothered swapping with weapons in either this strike or the last one. We just make sure that across the team, we have even coverage of all the elements, so that way, when, say, arc is active, you have a couple of people that step up to the plate, it is their time to be the sort of dominant DPS force, and then when it rotates and it's not their dominant element, they step back, they lean on their kinetic weapon, and then someone else steps up. It's a pretty easy way to do it. It basically means it's a lot easier than having to kind of jump in the menu all the time, keep swapping, because that can get a bit annoying, and you generally speaking don't need to do it. Sure, if you're trying to go for the fastest time possible, then yeah, you might do it. But for general completion, you're fine. Just make sure you have good coverage across all your loadouts, and then you can just run through and take full advantage of this. However, the other modifier, Time Warp Rings. Now bear in mind, Nightfalls do have timers, but on a weekly basis, there will be different ways to regain time. So last week, during the Arms Dealer strike, you got time back by killing enemies. Every time you killed like the basic enemies, you got 2 seconds. Killed some of the bigger enemies, you got 7 seconds. So there was a focus on clearing the ads so that you can in turn make sure you bring back that time. However, this week, the focus is much more on blitzing through the strike, because at key points during the mission, there will be rings that spawn up in the sky. Now, these should not be mistaken or confused with the standard Vex warp rings, the ones that you basically jump through to teleport to different parts of the map. They are distinctly different, and they will spawn in groups and clusters. They'll be very obvious, it's impossible to miss. They're not there throughout the entire strike, but they do spawn at key milestones. When you jump through one of the rings, you get plus 30 seconds on your timer, and they normally spawn in quite big groups. There might be, say, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 rings, so you really can, if you jump through all of them, regain a large chunk of time. So contrary to last week, where there was a big focus on still trying to push through as fast as possible whilst also taking out the ads to regain your time, the focus on this week is much more about just blitzing through, jumping through those rings. If there are any fights that you really don't need to bother with, you can honestly skip them. We wasted some time during this strike because, of course, there were sections where we were just fighting enemies and then we realised, hold on a minute, we don't need to kill them. So what I would recommend is if you're trying to go as quickly as possible with this one, then just make sure you hit up the kind of key checkpoints. So there'll be parts where you have to kill the 2 bosses or summon the conflux. Beyond that, you can sprint through quite a lot of stuff. So do that, jump through the rings, and then you get to the final boss, and it really should be pretty easy. Of course, do bear in mind that when the Vex boss burns the floor, that is solar, so if solar is in rotation, you want to try and make sure that you stand clear of that, because that can hurt quite a bit. But again, really not that difficult. So, for the time being, I'm just letting you guys watch out the final run. As mentioned, this is not an optimal run. This is not the fastest run you can do. This is literally the very first run we did after reset. So there's definitely room to save time to make a kind of faster run. But for the time being, this is what I want to show you guys. So if you haven't done Rat King, definitely do it. If you've done it on your first character, do it on your second and third characters, because the drop each time is relevant to your power level. So if you are now sitting at, say, 285, then that Rat King might drop at, say, 290, 295, maybe even 301. And of course, that same thing applies to Mida, other weapons like that, so definitely worth your time. Anyway, thanks for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.
Zavala, looks like the drills are manned by a full battalion of Cabal.
A full battalion? What is that to you, who have slain gods in the heart of the Black Garden?
And the only way to reach it is down past those giant, pointy drill bits? Good. I think they want their drill back. This is safe. Cabal don't need to stick the landing. We do. battalion down. Guns.